Good day, everyone. Week 9 of our weekly update. So we're just going to kind of get straight into it and talk a little bit about what happened last week. We got some good news about from Bank of Canada. We'll touch on the monthly numbers that came out as well for August from TREB, and then just kind of just explain what's going on in the market. And over the last week, things have really started to pick up, which is kind of expected, but a little bit more than anticipated. So let's just talk about somewhat of the good news with Bank of Canada holding the rates. So we won't see an increase at this time. It's unknown if they will increase it again in October, so we will keep an eye on that. It is possible, so don't get your hopes up too much. But with that news, it really sprung forward what people were hoping, and with a lot more listings coming out. Usually, as we saw a really low in the last week of August, which is usual. It is possibly even slower than Christmas time, so it was really expected. We saw months of inventory a little bit lower than what we would expect with the current market environment, but with the first week of September, we saw an increase of 20% in freeholds and just over 10% in condos, which is pretty remarkable when you think about it, but at the same time, it was somewhat expected. We had a lot of people waiting on the sidelines to see what would happen on both sides of the buy and sell, especially the sell side, as you can tell with a lot more listings coming out. So these are people that are kind of more so scared and just want to try and get their listings off. Some people do need to sell. They are doing it for a lifestyle decision, but they are doing it more so for the hopes of, if the rates do increase, then they're kind of getting it off their, getting off their plate before the rate increase does go up again, because people are still pretty tight. So it is a rough time, but I do try and tell people, if you don't need to sell, then really try to hold on, because things will get better. We really do anticipate a rate decrease next year sometime. When, that is very unknown, but it won't be as dramatic as how fast the interest rates went up. They won't come down like that. It will be a lot slower. It'll be more like an escalator instead of an elevator. But that is something to think about and to hold on to, in the sense that what's going to happen in the coming months. But with all this inventory that, if it's just popped up, it's going to be a little bit tougher for buyers. Just is going to be a little bit, for sellers, just because it's going to be more competition. So prices are going to be, it's going to be a little opportunity for buyers, from before, because there are going to be more listings. So hopefully, if you are kind of locked in from your rates before and now, this would be a good time before October, just in case. You never know what could happen. And then even if something does happen in October, there will be some buyers that are, still looking to lock into a certain rate, so for a couple months. But if they do increase it, it'll be a pretty rough winter, in the sense that it'll just be really tough for people to hold on to some of their properties that are trying to hold on for it. So it'll be a lot more listings coming out than normal, and buyers are just going to be on the sidelines. So it'll just be a tough time. But with tough times, we show that Canada really did try to prepare themselves for it as best as possible. And the stress test that was introduced about 5 years ago really is helping us, in the sense that we're not seeing as many foreclosures as we would see if we didn't have the stress test, because the stress test is really showing that it's working, and that we put people at a price and a rate where, if this environment that we are currently in does exist, then they'll be able to hold on. You definitely do have to make some lifestyle decisions to cut back on certain things. So those are things that you have to take in consideration. But we are in a lucky spot with Canada, in the sense that we're not in a place where we saw, let's say, 2008 in the States, where everybody was just foreclosing on so many properties. We were prepared for it, and so, I mean, it's still very tough, but at the same time, we are better prepared for it than a lot of other places around the world. So let's touch on a little bit of the numbers that came out in August. We saw year over year prices going up, but everything's pretty level off. And we saw even number of homes sold the same as July. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in September. If there's going to be a lot more sales, but there will be definitely a lot more units out, as I was saying. But overall, the market, it was month over month especially, it was pretty flat. We saw some increases year over year. So that is this something that's kind of normalized, but that's why we like to touch on our week to week numbers, which I won't get too much in detail, but which will be in the email. So if you subscribe to the email, then you can get all the numbers that we kind of break down for our certain segments that we like within Toronto and GTA. But yeah, so overall, I don't want to get too much into the numbers too for our year over year, because it's really tough to compare that to what we're going to in this dramatic week that we've been seeing, right? So that's why we have started this week to week or week over week videos and explanations of what's going on in the current market, because year over year, month over month, week over week is can be very dramatically different, right? So, but I like to touch on all of them just to showcase what you may be hearing in the news, and then what you'll be hearing in real time, essentially, right? So it's pretty overall year over year. We got some increases in the detached, and mainly in year over year in the semis, which is the highest increase. But overall, we're pretty flat month over month, which is interesting. We thought we would have maybe seen a little bit of decrease in the price, but at the same time, with the number of homes sold being pretty flat, that is pretty standard. We do just have so much immigration coming in, so, and a lot of students especially, so that were coming in for September. And, just these people that are coming in do need a place to live. So even if it is rental at first, they will be buying down the road. So these are things to think about in our current market. And that's why I don't see, the prices plummeting or whatnot. Again, if they do a increase in October, it will be a pretty rough winter. So there may be some opportunities for buyers. There's always some opportunities if people do have some cash on hand. But at the same time, it's not everybody has that opportunity. So it would be advisable just to talk to someone and understand what you can and can't handle if you are in the market. Again, if you are not in the market for that, you don't need to sell or anything. Like, these numbers don't really mean anything to you, because real estate is a long-term game. So if you're able to hold on and you're not worried, and you don't even need to listen to these numbers, because it probably cause more anxiety than anything, right? So I'll just kind of touch base on what we do for week to week, which is the Don Mills surrounding areas, Don Mills area, Leaside, Davisville, Mount Pleasant, and Yonge and Eglinton area, and Durham area. So overall, we saw the downtown area an increase in 100 homes week over week. And we saw condos almost 200 homes week over week. So the month of inventory went from 1.87 for detached, or for freeholds, I should say, 1.87 to 2.29. So that's a pretty big jump. And then for condos, from four months of inventory to 4.3 months of inventory. So for the Don Mills area, we saw 10 more homes, and we saw about 10 more condos as well. So everything's just going up a little bit. That makes the months of inventory go up. In the Leaside area, we saw 40 more homes, and condos only about 30 more homes or condos listed. So that's interesting to see, especially that's a pretty core area. But obviously, a lot more condos are being listed. So we're seeing that. We saw that a little bit more in August. I think people were just starting to prepare and getting too scared for if there was going to be a rate increase in September. So So it's interesting to see that condos didn't go up as much because I said freeholds went up 20% week over week and condos went up 10%. So we saw a lot more condos in the last few weeks before. And then in the Durham area, we saw just only about 80 more listings in the freehold and only about 5 more condos. So it's interesting to see those numbers, and then you can kind of see that the investors are obviously a little bit more into the core of the city. So those are some numbers, and you can see them more in the newsletter. If you're not subscribed to that, please hit the link below on our website, and then you can also click the link just to go straight to the blog for all the information that we've talked about here today. And if you can subscribe to the YouTube channel, we're really trying to pick up our numbers here too. That would be much appreciated and an honor for us, because we do love just to inform you guys of what's going on in the market. It's an interesting time and will be for some months to come. So we really try to give the nitty-gritty of what's going on in more of the day-to-day kind of environments. So next week will be interesting to see. I think we got some inflation numbers coming out this month too, so that will be an interesting number to see, and that will be, I think, a huge factor of what is going to happen in October for Bank of Canada. If you have any questions or concerns, don't be afraid to reach out. Appreciate every one of you, and have a great day. Thanks.